So looking back into the ancient times, a few thousand years ago, what were the qualities that a Chinese medicine doctor had to embody in order to become a Chinese medicine doctor? And is that different to the Chinese medicine doctor's qualities of today?
And that's very good questions. In the ancient time, the Chinese medicine doctor is put so much spiritual practice and energy practice, and also the we call it, the method to understand the human, the plant, and the environment, the animals, and the stars, or the what we were called the environment, which including the cosmos and the galaxy around us, because we are open system. So that's why the ancient Chinese medicine doctor much pay attention for the cultivate their own wisdom, their own energy to be able access that's the complicated or the information system what they're around them, because to be able to treat patients, so it's not just about their physical body. If a physical body, the Western medicine really done the lots of work.
Definitely.
Going to lots of work about going so much detail about the cellular levels, molecule levels, and all of that. But Chinese medicine is much more relying on the different way of thinking. So that's why the Chinese medicine doctor, if you're mentioned as an ancient the doctor, which they have a much better the way of thinking is about what we call the space thinking. Because normally in the science is much good on the logic. That's what called the lineage. Lineage thinking is about timing. So you understand the time and how things develop. But for the Chinese medicine, is much more we call space thinking. So what means space thinking? Is you understand different dimension. So it's like, okay, put this way. If you go into the room, okay, and in the logical thinking, so, I'm coming into the room, 3 o'clock, and 3:05, I met the young doctor who is interested in the Chinese medicine. So we talk about 10 minutes. So we're talking what. And then we get the conclusion and half an hour. And then after that, so we leave the, so basically all what you are dealing is the timing line, and then to describe and thinking what you have got, what you have learned. But the ancient Chinese medicine, so if they went to the room, before they went to the room, they already start to put their consciousness and the mind to that room. So normally they always want to know which room, which direction. So they are experience about the earth energy and the heaven energy and then the space and the energy in that room, what is it like even before they're coming in. And then when they're coming in, they start to experience or identify what is the heavy energy or light energy, and which part is like and which person on which kind of a condition, and that condition is much more associated with the energetic levels. So that energetic levels, they already feel they carried, probably they are family energy, which is, and then they experience above the space of their family influence to that person. So that I'm just trying to explaining about what's an ancient way of thinking. So that's why if you practice the ancient medicine, the ancient medicine is much more systematic thinking and holistic thinking. So that's holistic thinking. It's not linear, right?
Linear,
So linear, yeah. Is it called linear? Okay.
Linear, yeah.
Yeah, linear. And so that's why what they are put all of connections, like okay, Ron, you are come from their science family, so that's why. And then that doctor, if they meet you, if they're reading your energy, they can feel there's a science energy on the much more active in their head, very logic. So they can immediately pick up when this person just met me and start logic to identify me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's why. So to be able to become a good Chinese medicine doctor, so it's like you should have lineage thinking, and it's not means you get rid of it. So you know the timing, you know time flow, you know time influence, and then you know the before and the after was that person. Like you always ask the history of the patients, what they feel and how to feel, what that. But that's very small part of being a doctor. But the being a doctor is means how can you skillfully handle the space. So what that means, so instead, not instead, including that logic, the timing and the thinking, and so you also very much so, even more, you need to thinking the total situation, totality. It's like a big picture, okay? And we call it holistic thinking. And also you need to have a intuitive thinking. Because like you just met that person. I'm sure intuitive thinking, everybody gets it. Mm. And especially for salesmen. Salesman has been trained very quickly pick up this person, what they think, what they like, what type of the person, and if they are that's kind of emotionally, you just get emotion engaging with them. They're logically, you talk to them logically way. So that's why even in the society, some people already doing that. But actually, for Chinese medicine doctor, is like you need to have a very good intuitive thinking, the intuitive way of the conscious to do it, and also in inspirational way to so because you see the patient, so each person to the classical Chinese medicine doctor are different. They're not like in the West medicine. So if you get your cough, so that's okay, you got the virus or you got the whatever type of germs. So that's why while you use antibiotics for this. So it's like have a kind of a clear in common to deal with kind of a cold. But in the Chinese medicine, they're not only treating the cold, because they're not interested to treating the cold, because they knew a cold is only the phenomenon. on the surface. The background and then the cost for the cold is because their total energetic level dropped. The immune system dropped. But what kind of reason cost dropped is because they have been shocked because they had their parents, passed away. They're too, sad. So when they're too sad, the Chinese medicine will always say the strong emotion will directly attack the internal organs, like the grief directly attacked the lung. Because like when the people practice Chinese medicine, they can feel as soon as they feel sad, they feel lung like and even just kind of energetic lungs get shrink. So that's why you can see that's what we call the space thinking. So you can feel the space, even the lung space getting smaller. So that's intuitively you know what happened, and also when you look at all of that situation, and then each person different, the cost, there's a disease caused by the either emotion levels or their habits or they're overworked or whatever, some other reason. For some cause we call the negative energy invasion. So called negative invasion, there could be quite a lot. For example, nowadays there have lots of scientists develop the machine to pick up the magnetic field, which the dowsing said, oh, that energy line is too much, whatever the wave that will harm the body. So that is also will be count into their considering and diagnose what kind of reason. But also some people, for example, pass the graveyard. So that's why there's we call it, those kind of a wandering soul. The energy also could be hunched or connecting with that person when that person particularly somewhere weak. So all of that is we call space thinking, right? Space sure. Identified.
Just before we go on, could I just elaborate a few things there, because there's a lot being said. A few questions, I guess, to pose it as a statement to begin with. When most Chinese medicine doctors, or what you would consider you learn at university anyway, is you walk into a room, you see a table, you see towels, you see needles. Then you see the patient walk in, you take their pulse, you read their tongue, and then you ask what their diet is, and you're treating that way. But from this perspective, it sounds like that you're viewing it from a bird's eye perspective, and you're not seeing things as you're just walking into a room. You're seeing things as, okay, everything is some sort of frequency or vibration, and there's a whole bunch of different things which you need to take into account. My question to that is, do you feel like, as a general human thing, that's why a lot of us suffer, because our reality has gone from this huge, massive perspective and has sort of been warped into something so small and perhaps being contained to a point which isn't natural for us? Do you think that's also what contributes to this drops in energy levels from people in general?
Yes, that's correct. Because our human, if we don't really understand the environment and then the big picture, and there's some of their energy is physically, like naked eyes can see it. And then some of the energy we call the chi, so it's beyond the naked eyes. If we know the electromagnetic spectrum. So that's why all the physics knows there's so much waves. It's much more beyond the eyes. So that's why the Chinese medicine doctor, if you need to be good enough, you need to take that in count. So for human nowadays, because more and more, if they're not take this part in count, so they're only relying on the naked eyes. So that's why it become a very narrow-minded or narrow vision, because lots of disease and then the sickness is multi reasons. It's beyond that kind of a very narrow visible vibration part. So that's what I mean. Yeah. So in this case, so the classical Chinese medicine doctor and very pay attention, even they select the clinic. They always select a good energy spot, because they knew if they're dealing with those people's energy, and then they need to have a good energy place to be able to enhance people to like much more harmonious back to their original setting and to get rid of the illness. Because illness like this disease, why? Because disease is because you're out of balance. Because your body, their original setting, you are sort of more or less balanced. So that's why you don't feel sick. You don't feel discomfort. So so that's why the doctor need to have this kind of a skill and then that's kind of a training.
And to loop into what you're talking about, because I don't want you to lose your line of thinking in talking about the space. A classical Chinese doctor thousands of years ago, or the ones that are still existing today, or you could just say the ones that are very good at healing patients and bring them back to health. How many hours of practice is it necessary per day, or your orientation towards what you think practice is? How much of that is actually, how much should you do? How much did they do?
Okay. In general, if they are really committed to practice like ancient way, when they were very small, they already follow the master and then maybe their father or grandfather to practice. So quite lots of the doctor, they are practice quite intensively and to build up and those kind of ability, like the ability to be able to see the energy, to feel and then diagnose on the different kind of aspect beyond material levels. So that really means some of the people they spent about 10 years to be able to make sure they're doing good. So each day, from my own personal experience, I remember when I used to practice Chinese medicine, but I was practice which kind of like blindly in the clinic, just follow the other people without really knowing what I'm doing. I just follow the university kind of a standard. But later I start to follow the Taoist master and some other, the good doctor, and then become a very intensive practice. So that means at least 8 hours per day for this 4 times. Because this practice will be deeply engaging with the cycles of the sun and the moon moving. So that is called the 子有卯有功. 子午卯有功 means like 4 times for health. We did kind of those kind of a program for community people's health management to do the 4 times for health, which is already very, 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 very short time, just to make sure people in the right time doing the right exercise. But if to be able to become a very, very good doctor, I would suggest it in that 4 times for health, you need at least fully practice for 2 hours to make sure your energy on that meridians is a flow fully to be able to flow to the next meridians, which that means your own energy not dropped. When your own energy very strong, that means you will be able to treat patient in a much better precision, because majority patients come, they're already weak. So everybody connecting is an energetic connect. How could you say the doctor have no energy to treat patients and have no energy? So that means like someone very weak, they hold hands with another weak person and then they all fall down, right? So that means the doctor have the standard. You make sure you have full energy to be able to cover the space with good harmonious energy. At the same time, when you're dealing with a patient, you make sure you can helping people to pick up their energy, either by your own energy radiating to helping them, and also to have a skill like to giving the acupuncture stimulate and nourishing their meridians, nourishing their energy, and they use moxa warming up their body to let their own energy growing up, or make sure they can sleep deeply in the treatment to be able to recover the energy. So that's why they are to be able to helping people to pick up their energy to balance. There's many different ways. But first, if we were talking about how could the practitioners as a Chinese medicine doctor to be able to qualify to healing the people. So your own energetic levels need to be very balanced, very strong. That's talking from energetic levels. And then from the understanding, the wisdom of the human life. So you need to understand their human system, and also to understand the human life pattern. So that's why you can identify, diagnose what type of the bad habits to cause their problem, and then to be able to give a suggestion to helping people to correct their bad habit, or you need to give them the specific methods, and also need to understand whether they're going to listen, they're going to be able to practice, and how can you supply a very effective way to make sure they can correct their bad habits to be able to correct their cause their illness.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess that's a discussion for another day, which could lead on for a long time. You were talking about going back to the space, the perception that a Chinese medicine doctor have. Do you want to continue that?
Yes. Yes. So I'm just really recently I was kind of really looking into that aspect because I find our universe or our cosmos actually formulated by space and time. And then so I was looking into quite lots of literature and ancient wisdom and Western science. I find this it's quite interestingly, and the Chinese ancient and the Taoist practice, like internal alchemy practice. So their book, they don't really follow timing line. And then even the author never really put their name on. Very little people put their name on. Some of them you even didn't know what time they write. they write these books, and then the other people know, and then they put it, oh, this person we know, and then they're writing what time. So I started kind of like really wondering. I said, aha, the Taoist master, they already beyond the time. They're in the space. So that's why they don't care the time, because to them, and this, if you understand, the earth is the cycles, and the moon is the cycles, and then the sun or the other planet is the cycles. So the cycles you found here, you can come back again. So time never lost. But because people fear of the death, and then people have such kind of a deep fear because they're afraid of they lost the time. They're going to get old because they never come back again. But in the Eastern way of thinking, time's a cycle. You're going to come back. You never lost. So that's why they don't care the time.
Yeah, fascinating.
So, of course, and then that's one of the reasons, and lots of kind of the sign to say, oh, if that person practice very well, they can turn their body into younger. So we heard quite lots of Taoists so said, oh God, they're living 200 years old, 400 years old. When you look at them, it was amazing. They doesn't look that old. If you don't know, you could just say, oh, they maybe just 60 years old or 70 years old. Some people will think, oh, they're 70 because they walk just like 70 years old. But if you looked their teeth, so you start realize how old they are. They must be over 400 years old, because the teeth, they're already they're used as the half. They're already gone. Majority of them.
Too much eating.
Because there's so much chewing. So that's one of the reasons. Like if you practice, very dedicated to practice those kind of either qigong or internal alchemy, and then you start suddenly understand, oh, time is illusion. So that's why, but we need to have time. My understand, time is kind of a program in the earth. If without time, and people don't really have anything to measure how much they're making progress. But that in general, as the before 50 years old, everybody running by time. Most of the people running by time. After 50 years old, so you find, oh, I'm not worried about time. I meditate. I probably meditate for like hours and hours. But you meditate for hours. When you come back, you feel you're much younger. So you traveled space and time.
So,
but
go on. Yeah, please.
But if you never meditate deeply enough, you won't really understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's to do with the fact that when you're meditating, because time is regulated by the liver, correct? So when you're meditating, you're taking your consciousness beyond this sort of realm, so it's not constricted by that. So it's actually, the time appears to be flowing much faster than it is. Is that correct?
Well, I'll come back to talking about the space. That with that's the so-called time is linked with the space. For example, if you were in the 3D, yes, is measured by time. But when you meditate, you're beyond the 3D.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
So you're going to the space and doesn't limit it or program by time. So that's why in the ancient time they said when you're in the heaven, that means in the different dimension. So it's just have a 1 day. That means very fast. You just have 1 day. When you're going back to the earth, so you find 1,000 days past, 1,000 years passed.
Wow.
So that means, so that's why, and well, that's the people saying, right? Okay, what time really means if you're going to different dimension, and then that means you're going to different space.
Mm.
So that's a different rule and different program.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. That makes sense. So this is all part of a quality that a Chinese medicine doctor embodies, that they're capable of cultivating to a point where this is how they perceive reality, or this is how they work within reality.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why there's quite lots of Chinese medicine doctors meditate quite a lot, and partly they get that energy together, the qi and the shen together. At the same time, they're dealing with patients. They're transform that energy to patient, helping people to recover, or helping them transfer some of the energy in the space, because some of people maybe they're locked into certain space they cannot come in, like if they have been doing if they have lots of nightmare, and as like they're going to the certain space they cannot get out of their soul. So therefore, if you have a skill to going to bring them back into different space, so that patient feel much better, feel like okay, that's the way they're from the hell come to the heaven. So that's how, wow, I used to feel like in the really dark place, and I cannot get out. I just want commitment suicide, and I just feel and life is no interest. I just don't really want to carry on to continue the life. But since those kind of treatment, so that's why the energy bring up in the vibration different space. The sense I come to the different space. I feel very happy, and then the world full of love. I'm much more confident and much more happier. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So in a way, you're saying like the doctor has a way of navigating the space-time continuum, and sort of for each person, and helping them change the vibration to jump into different states.
Yes. Or at least to connecting their original setting, because original setting, their true nature and a true child, and they're no fear and quite happy, or whatever. But if they're lost, they come into different space and have quite lots of dark energy. So that's why the fear come, the depression come, and the violence come. So that's why if you bring them into the different energy, different vibration, so that's why those people come out. So that's also the Chinese medicine doctor, and they should have the ability to transform the space.
So do you have anything more in line of talking with this, or can I ask the next question?
Well, you can ask the next question.
Well, to do the same thing what we're talking about. So far the qualities just to summarize what we've learned so far, is that the doctor can sort of has the ability to transcend 3D realm and has the skill to be able to use that in treatment to help a patient. And they practice probably a good quality is a minimum of 8 hours per day. So sort of speaking practically, are there any other qualities which those doctors embody, or which they focus their attention to on a daily basis?
But then I just want to say, I mentioned about the 8 hours practice. That means before you the doctor qualify this kind of the ability to transmit. But and if you haven't had that kind of a quality, or you're not stable, have that quality, you need practice very intense to be able to bring up your energy to that levels. But when you have that levels, you need to just doing kind of a maintenance. So that means you're not necessarily have to do the 8 hours practice, but you become naturally and to practice every now and again, because you're much more, the doctor themselves much more aware the energy change, if the energy dropped or the energy not, or they're much more aware how could they and then like mastering the space and the energy, because they're going to certain space. Like for example, if you go into the graveyard, they have very cold and heavy energy. So that's why the doctor need to be focused and know how to master in a different space. So that's why it's like when the doctor so-called qualified means they can deal in all kind of different situations. They are very skillfully doing that. So that means their practice time not necessarily measured by the time. So if you still say 8 hours, that means you're still in the old paradigms about time.
Yeah, that's my rigid thinking. Correct.
Yeah, because like when the practice is sufficient enough, so the time no longer the question anymore, because they can practice any moment, any time. But that means this practitioners need to have a high level awareness.
Thanks for clarifying that. So, thanks for saying that. Is there any other qualities that you feel like they also focus their attention towards cultivating?
Oh, of course, their virtual part. Because we're talking about lots of space, because the virtue, like the compassionate, or the mind not judging patients, not dislike anyone. So it's like you, the doctor will have such a good heart. You can accept everybody as a part of you, and then you not have this kind of you don't have any judgment like arrogant. Oh, you don't like that person, the way they talk. So you don't judging anyone. You just the full heart and listen, and then to find out what they need. How can you helping them? So that means the doctor need have no type of the ego and the arrogant. So that's is the very important part of the Chinese medicine doctor, because when you face to anyone, the only sense what your focus and concentrate is how can I do for this person, for whatever they need to develop. Either they need, spiritual development is because why they get sick, or they need emotional development, or they physically need to learn something else. So that's why when you will be with patients, you need to totally aware, and then to be able to identify what's that the patient's need. So that means that that doctor is not about the, because I'm a doctor, I'm in front of you, I'm big, so it's totally into service mood.
Mm.
Mm.
So that service mood encompasses just when you're treating someone who's in front of you, or that's your whole life?
Your whole life.
Mm. So
Because
yeah.
because when you give, when you serve, you are actually the person get most of it. Because through the service, through the giving, you develop much more energy, you understand much more, you learn much more. And then because when you were in that position, because when you were no mind to helping people, just whatever they need, so you see the amazing result. So that's why you start realizing life is such wonderful and beautiful, because through the state, what you can do, and then you transfer the situation. But you also understand that it's not because your egos transform, because you totally in line with the energy in the universe. And then there's the stillness, and then the emptiness, so you will be able to tap into the source.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. The universe, the source of the cosmos and the universe. So therefore, you start realize when you letting yourself go, and then the whole world start connected. So the energy start free flow. Everything's possible to be healed by this state.
Mm. Do you think this is also something that can be accomplished by anyone, not just for a Chinese medicine doctor, but
Yeah,
anyone on the planet?
yeah, of course. If anyone can be in that state, you can see some people just as ordinary people. For example, I met some cleaners, and then after clean, their whole room is much more brighter. And then when I would talk to that cleaner, she talked to me. She was so happy. Said, "Hey, did you see?" So like, because when she was clean, she's not a doctor, but when she was clean, I can see her motion is in the Tai Chi speed.
Mm.
And then she was so relaxed and so focused. And then she has no mind state, just focus on that moment. Like lots of spiritual practice was said, okay, you stay in the moment. You don't carry the past. You don't project in the future. You're living at the moment. That is become very powerful. You see, the cleaner can do that. And then they're actually, when they were doing that, they're the masterpiece.
Mm. I know that this answer probably can't, it's very complex, so you can't receive a concrete answer necessarily. What do you feel like the difference is between someone like that cleaning lady or a doctor or a normal regular person? Because some of those people are able to get into that state you're describing, but others are held back. Is there some sort of, I know it's different for everyone, but is there a sort of universal thing which is stopping people from arriving there, or something people can do in order to more embrace their own life and be in that peaceful, loving state, and also wanting to have the desire to help people?
Your question is asking why some people cannot do that state, some people can, right?
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody on their way to learn how to reach that state.
Mm.
Everybody have a possible to be able to reach that state. So, you know, that some people in their soul, they already kind of had a habit to get into that state. So because they feel comfortable to be in it. But some other people in the soul, they have carried their own pattern. For example, even some people come out, growing up into certain family. I noticed that some of the people have a very strong family influence. If their family, the parents very judgmental to themselves, so to the children. And then their children have been programmed to judgmental everything.
Mm.
And then they also doesn't feel right, so they try to change. So they start a journey to learn and to change, because if they're judgmental too much, they find they cannot get on with the other people, and then they start judgmental to themselves. They start dislike themselves. So that's why we're talking about the education and the training so important in the society. If a society, the culture is too much about me, about the encourage ego, and the culture so much encourage about the separation and judgmental, and the old culture so much encourage this kind of type of, you know, the way of thinking. So that's why people find they're trapped into the you know, the environment, which they cannot get out from it. They try to run away, but they cannot even run away from their own judgment.
Mm.
So that's why some people start looking for master and looking somewhere have a much better energy and not really judging them, much more loving. So that's one of the reasons so much people start first they come out from the culture so much judgmental, so much competition. So that's why they take drugs. So because they take drugs, they don't need to judge themselves and then just go into the such nice space. But, you know, after you take drugs, you come back, so you feel even worse. So it's not the ultimate solution. So that's one of the reasons why there globally, there are so many people looking for spiritual development. And then because the meditation, and then, I mean, the spiritual development, not necessary to go to church. It's kind of we call the self development. So that's why, and then the meditation become so popular, and then people so much going to India, and some people come to China and then try to learn. It's because in the culture in Indian and in the Far East, their thinking is much more round, much more space thinking rather than timing. And the majority of people, when they're brought up, and then they're not being told too much more in a hurry. But of course, nowadays, East and West, so much culture exchange, and then the Chinese people become likewise, become a timing oriented quite a lot. I'm just kind of talking, if you're asking about the why some people like that, because from everybody come out from their family environment, family culture, and the school culture and the society culture. So is a big influence. So, and then those influence and brought up people have the journey to explore what means oneness, what means is beyond the duality. So the Qigong practice is a part of the, and then to let people to know what is the beyond duality, what is the clarity but no judgment. So that's why, and lots of people start trying to follow this kind of ancient practice to be able to exploring their journey. How could they understand those kind of space thinking and non-judgment, living at the moment, but at the same time have a clarity to be understanding how society works. So it's like you could be traveling, you could be transform yourself, identified what's a 3D, what's the different other dimensions, what is the group thinking, what is no mind thinking, what is the judgment. So whether this judgment is come out from the much more mature, clear way, or the judgment through the personal hatreds and then, the arrogant or insecure. Because if people not practice meditate and take into the highest dimension, so that normally the function in the very extreme is about the fear-based and also ego-based. So if people can overcome their fear, and then they can overcome the base on the ego, because we still need the ego to helping us navigating you to get things done. So that's why how could you managing these two parts to be able to monitor your life and in the society, and then through the pressure, through the pain, to find a new balance, because that's an imbalance that just keep happening. That's part of life. But you just find a new balance each time you realize the new way how to handle that. So that's part of the human journey, the journey of the human as a soul in the earth, to have that duality to learn.